again, and welcome back to Southeast Texas Weekly. I'm Kevin Steele. Great to have you with us. We appreciate it very much. Time to talk politics. Iran in the news. Putin in the news. We have some political races in Pennsylvania, and we first have to talk about what could well be the largest teen movement in the history of the United States. This matter of gun violence in our schools. Joining us to talk further, Godfrey Leggett from the left, and the great W.L. Pate, Beaumont City Councilman from the right, we'll say.
Pleasure to be here. Great. I'm in the middle.
Even though he's in the middle at this moment.
Glad to be here.
Great to have you guys. What is this notion of all of these students in their walkouts all across America, coast to coast, Maine to Hawaii, teenagers walking out saying it's time to do something? Did it really come to the students of this country before something would be done about guns? What do you make of this, what historians say really could be the largest teen movement in the history of the nation?
Well, I think it's a sincere thing, okay? I don't think it's some trumped up, I hate to use the word trumped up.
They don't want just out of class, in other words.
No, they're actually concerned and have desires for things to be done. Now, they're not able to execute any political power, but when they grow to voting age, they will be. So politicians should take note.
And it looks like the House of Representatives, anyway, is taking notice.
Well, one of the things you need to follow the money. You know, in that great movie, Jerry Maguire, Show Me the Money. Find out who's paying for the buses. Find out who's organizing, and you see in a lot of areas it's funded by left-wing groups.
I don't believe there's that much busing.
Well, I know. Oh, actually in Baltimore they spent $100,000 of money to bus these people, these students, $100,000. Now these are schools that people can't read and write literally in middle school. Literally cannot read and write. The city's upside down. There are more people getting killed in Baltimore, and if I'm not mistaken, right now, more people murder per capita. It took over Chicago as far as people getting killed.
Well, because Chicago
so their focus,
if he's correct,
and the school districts are run by the cities.
I think most of these kids are sincere that they want to change.
What do the students want to see changed? Now, you think historically, you think in terms of the college student movement in the 60s, and that was a reaction against the Vietnam War.
It's not just one thing that needs to be done, okay? First of all, we could enforce the existing laws strictly, okay? Secondly, we could do a better job of dealing with our mentally deranged people. You know, really, we should do a better job tracking them. Thirdly, we should register every gun in the country, every one. And you should be checked to see if you're mentally...
That's a surprised look on my face.
Well, no.
That a progressive thinks we ought to register every gun.
I didn't say take the guns away. I said register them like you do cars.
They did that, and it worked well in Germany, where they, you know, eventually they went, oops,
they only took the guns. They only took the guns from the Jews and the Poles and the
the ones they sent to the concentration.
That's right. All the Germans, they were happy to have them with them.
I think there's a tie in there.
Okay. Well,
my point is, no, I tell you what. Okay. There isn't any question something needs to be done. But when you have gun-free zones, people that are mentally disturbed,
like the one you're sitting in right now.
Something is wrong with America right now.
Are you scared
Shaquille O'Neal, who is far from a right-wing conservative, said, we don't need, this isn't about gun control, it's about having individuals there, cops, protecting the schools so that these people don't show up and start shooting it up. And it's so sad when you have individuals who will use these students as props. Anytime you see Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and Bernie Sanders at the head of these...
Let's get back to a few facts about gun deaths, okay? The United States leads the world in the number of people killed by guns every year. And we have more guns per capita than anyone else in the world. There's a connection there, don't you think?
Well, we're also talking about 5,000 gun-related homicides in the country each year, and about 500,000 abortions each year. So, you know, you do have that, by the way, to consider. And feel free to comment on that.
Abortions have nothing to do with gun control.
Right, but here's what's funny. No, you brought up an excellent point. Here's an excellent point of the people that are killed by guns. The people on the left are say, take away the guns. You get...
Didn't say that. Didn't say
yes.
No, I didn't.
No, I didn't
register.
say you said.
Okay.
I'm saying the folks on the left want to take away the guns.
Okay, well, I know.
And then how many abortions do we have a year?
Down 500,000 at least.
And when you think...
And you're going to stop that?
No, here's the thing.
But it
One's
just
killing,
points up that
the
notion,
other's
and feel free to
killing,
comment on it.
but the
That's why I
left
threw
is
it out.
for abortion. That's okay if you kill it that way.
You can only make it tough on the poor people not to have abortions. Well-off people could get a plane ticket, go wherever they want, have an abortion, come back.
Well, that's like I said, we'd have to expand this to an hour show.
It'd be an hour-long show.
Yeah.
$50 million, though. And let me put this in. $50 million in the House bill. A rare bipartisan act by the U.S. House of Representatives. Only 10 dissenters to this notion of a new bill. It does training. It does. It has a lot to do with the coordination between the schools. And is it a good bill? What do you think?
That's not what we need to do. We need to register all the guns and check on all the mentally people.
This bill does not go near far enough.
No.
Well, listen, our friends on the left, we love them. They're just misguided.
Yeah, we're misguided.
But honestly,
we understand facts, okay?
I love Godfrey, and he knows it. He knows it.
You can't.
But the reality of it is, just somebody having a gun, and I will say this forever. When I grew up and went to high school in the 60s, gun racks in trucks, and nobody was shooting up
It was a different world back then.
Very different time. We'll talk about that different world. We'll talk about many issues when we come back on Southeast Texas Weekly. Stay with us.
It really was.
Sweetie, can you turn the AC on?
It is on.
Sweetie, can you turn on the heater?
I did.
Please, can someone help me?
Thermocon man can.
Receive up to $1,700 in factory rebates or up to 72 months interest-free financing on qualifying Lennox equipment.
Professional service is our business.
Whether you're unemployed or just looking for something better, don't miss the 12 News Job Fair, Thursday, March 22nd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the MCM Elegante. Brought to you by Philpott Motors. You'll be able to apply with dozens of businesses like BISD, hiring teachers, IT technicians, and electricians, or PAISD, hiring bus drivers, mechanics, and child nutrition cooks. Don't miss the 12 News Job Fair brought to you by Philpott Motors, Thursday, March 22nd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the MCM Elegante.
And we're back on Southeast Texas Weekly with a very loquacious Jeff Lewis. We can barely get into the program because he wants to talk so badly about politics. I mean, can you blame the man? He's seeing chaos in his White House, and he doesn't know what to do with it.
Hey, it's your White House, too.
It's everybody's White House, isn't it?
Hey, we had 8 years of that lecture that this is my president, too. Well, it's still your president.
It's still my president.
That's
don't like it, but
vernacular, isn't it?
Yeah.
But your president is sitting in all of our presidents sitting in the White House right now, in a White House that is chaotic. If you listen to some of the national writers, I know some of your views on the national news media. But the point here is this indicative of a White House in chaos with Rex Tillerson, the Secretary of State, being fired, not even being able to articulate why he was
I hadn't heard the whole story come out on that, but apparently I listened on this little show called Hannity yesterday that said Tillerson had kind of gone off the reservation a little bit with some of the stuff he wanted. Then I heard other reports that said Tillerson was the second coming of Jesus or something like that in the State Department. So, I mean, it's kind of like, who do you believe? I look at it like this. You know, all those guys serve at the pleasure of the president, and the president serves at the discretion, of the American people.
Yes,
so if you don't like who he has in, he can change it. And
usually
if you don't like who you have in, you can change it. So I mean, that's how we do it in this
Were
country.
you surprised at the firing of Rex Tillerson?
No, I thought Trump was getting unhappy with him for a while.
Yeah, I mean, that's nothing new. I don't think it was off the radar.
What's more concerning to me is that Pompeo, I don't know, he's kind of a loose cannon in some ways.
Dude, you said about like every single nominee he's ever made.
Well,
I'm just saying.
Possibly, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Rex Tillerson's not just because I used to work for the man at Mobil Oil, ExxonMobil, but I thought he was a pretty level-headed person.
Okay.
Well, in the White House right now, in terms of its departures and or firings, is at a record pace. Is it a record pace for dismissals at this point of the administration?
Almost twice as many as previous
But does that mean
presidents.
chaos?
I hadn't done all the calculus on it, but I'm sure it's pretty high.
It's at least twice as many as previous.
It's pretty high. What's the deal with that? Are you not troubled by that in any way?
Honestly.
Yeah, you're okay with it kind of a revolving door.
It doesn't really bother me who is in what agency of the federal government, because quite frankly, I don't think the federal government is really the driver of American society. I mean, this is the whole concept that, you know, liberals think that government does everything for you, and
but you do have
conservatives believe that it's the American people that drives the government. So I don't have a problem with that.
We do have to have a State Department, yes?
Yes, we have a State Department.
And we have to have a Secretary of State out there.
And how often does the State Department change its figurehead?
Usually twice or three times.
A couple times in administration?
Yeah, twice maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so...
But not in the first year and a half.
If it's that big of a deal that something changes, shouldn't we make it, you know, works like a 10-year appointee?
How many you know,
what you're conceding is that continuity in the office is just not that big of a deal. Because
what do you think of Pompeo? What's he going to do?
Well, let's take the CIA part of it. Okay? We got a nominee for CIA that is a lifer. Okay, she's been deputy of operations for years. Okay, y'all have a problem with it because I don't know, she believes in waterboarding. Okay, you got a bunch of, you know, career people up there that are actually run the place. Okay, it's the political appointees that are you know, replaceable.
What do you think of Haspel, a potential nominee for the CIA now? What do you think? First female in the post.
I don't know that much about her, to be honest, but from what I've heard, I'm not real pleased. You know, I'd like to see us go back.
She was a Republican appointee, right?
No,
okay.
I just like to go back to being a nation of laws and living by the laws we so profess to have.
Absolutely, and those laws say that waterboarding is okay. So I mean,
no, they don't.
You know, that was my argument.
No, they don't.
And you think Pompeo will be bad at state?
I don't know. He's kind of a loose cannon, I think.
Well, what do you mean by that?
Is that the Democratic talking point today? Is loose cannon?
No.
You keep saying the same word again. I was just curious.
Okay. He's unpredictable, but of course Trump is unpredictable. So how could you tell? You know.
Well, John F. Kelly is the chief of staff out.
Well, that scares me more than anything else, because John F. Kelly was now the only person kind of trying to keep Trump going in a certain direction. And he's gone. Trump's completely loose. He's, you know.
Who do you want us to bring back?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
I mean, you're like way more worked up about these personnel moves than I am. I was just wondering. I mean,
well, I think Trump's dangerous, honestly.
Oh, I know, and that's the whole premise, is that you guys don't think that Trump ever should have been elected isn't fit to be elected, and anything he does is inevitable. And I'm thinking, well, you know what? Our economy's going pretty good considering these tax cuts seem to be relatively popular.
I could show
you know, honestly, his approval rating is actually pretty good for this point in the presidency. So I mean, I don't know what your beef is.
The notion that the economy is, at least on paper, going up.
It responded to his tax cuts, but now it's fallen back from that.
Well, you mean they were popular? I thought you said they were like the most unpopular thing we've ever done.
Amongst
the
general people.
You mean people like getting their money back that they worked for? I can't believe that. I think y'all could do so much better at spending all of it and borrowing more and spending that and adding to it.
You know that the rich people got the majority of those tax cuts, not the poor.
I don't know.
Yes.
Not rich.
Yes.
Can you tell me what did you do with them?
I didn't. I'm not rich.
Oh, okay.
There a lot of people feel like, have said anyway, in some of these published reports, that they feel like, yeah, their year's going to be a better year. 2018 is going to be a better year because of the tax cuts.
We'll
you don't buy into it?
We'll see.
You think it'll be evaporated?
I think there's a lot of downside potential here.
Downside potential.
Growth of the economy is a downside to the country, because then we actually have to, pick up our own boots and do things.
I haven't asked you, just quickly before this break is over, the largest teen movement in America. What do you think of this notion of the guns bill, $50 million a year into the idea of training and coordinating some of the systems, mental health systems for better reporting?
How long do I have to answer this?
Just
okay,
quick.
Moment.
Super quick.
I don't get this whole argument, because whether or not the Second Amendment is the guarantee of rights, my rights do not come from a document. Okay, these rights are protected in the Constitution, but that's not the originator of the rights. The originator of my rights is natural law. I have the right to defend myself by whatever means necessary. Period.
The founding fathers saw fit to write it into an
because the federal government was going to take away those rights where they could.
Because
the Constitution protects the citizenry against the government, not the other way around.
The founding fathers didn't want to have a standing army. They wanted to depend on the militia.
And yet we still have a standing army, and you still want to take away guns.
But we didn't at the time of the founding fathers, when when the amendments were written.
At the time,
I thought
we had Navy. Aren't you a big fan of saying that the founding fathers didn't have the clue of what they were doing? Because,
no, I didn't ever say
for example, I mean, we only had like 2/3 of a black person or something. I mean,
I never said anything about that.
So, again, if you're going to make an originalist argument, which I would actually support you making, because I do believe original intent. But
original intent was to have a militia.
Okay.
That was actually registered as a militia.
I will concede, if we disband the U.S. military right now, we can go to straight militias. Otherwise, I imagine the Second Amendment is expanded to mean more than what you're talking about with just the militia.
In today's world, we really have to have an army.
And with that, we have to take a break.
We really need to have guns.
Kent Batman, the Hardin County GOP chairman, and Michael Lindsay, Lindsay and Parsons, here to talk more after this break. Stay with us.
Your home should be the most comfortable place you can be. For 25 years, that has been our job at American Aluminum. With our Southern Comfort glass rooms, screen rooms, pool enclosures, patio covers, call us today at American Aluminum.
Check it out, the all-new 12newsnow.com, powered by J5 Tractor, the #1 Mahindra dealer in North America. Find out who's the athlete of the week Wednesdays during 12 News at 10. Brought to you by Wendy's.
Your home should be the most comfortable place you can be. For 25 years, that has been our job at American Aluminum. With our Southern Comfort glass rooms, screen rooms, pool enclosures, patio covers, call us today at American Aluminum.
Download the 12 News Now app from the App Store or the Android Marketplace.
KBMT, we are 12 News, where you can expect more.
Welcome back, folks. We appreciate you being here. Kent Batman here with the Hardin County GOP chairman. We appreciate you coming by, sir.
Good to be here, Kevin.
And Michael Lindsay with Lindsay and Parsons. Good to see you.
Always good to be here, Kevin.
Give us a quick word on what may be a giant movement in this country. This notion of the younger people saying, look, it's about time we do something about guns and violence. And then what are the implications long term for the nation? Is this notion of gun restrictions a fait accompli at this point?
We're past the time.
We're past the time
that you can control guns. You can get a plan on the internet right now for an AR-15 and make it with a 3D printer. Guns are just one of those things that's just way too easy to make. People reload their own ammunition. We just need to prepare for a world that has access to a lot of things that can hurt us, and you got to protect yourself.
And well, that would, if I'm hearing you right, imply that the movement on the part of the teenagers is a lot of noise with no possible resolution to this notion of gun violence.
They're not even in favor of that. I could have a day tomorrow to support the Second Amendment. If you gave me a day off of school, the same number of kids are going to be there.
We got 300 million guns on the streets of America. Regardless of what you did today, you're going to have those guns still out there. Is there anything in this? Is it a real movement in the sense that we thought of back during the Vietnam War?
I don't know, Kevin. It's the strangest, strongest movement that I've seen since Vietnam, and I'm totally impressed with these kids. You can go into a crowd of any one of them, pick them out. They're smart, articulate. They're able to express themselves very well. As far as it's a movement or not, give it 3 months, give it 6 months. They've kept things together better, longer, and stronger than I would have thought. I'm totally impressed by the walkout yesterday. These kids are smart, they're organized, they're using their phones, they're Googled in, they're talking to each other. And this is the generation, not just these kids in high school, but this is the kids in this generation since Columbine that have lived in the shadow of gun violence and terror at school. And I don't know where the movement is going, but I like the issues they're raised. Can we just talk about in this country? Can we have an honest debate? Can we talk about mental health? Can we talk about background checks? Can we talk about some of these crazy weapons? Can we talk about the size of magazines? The answer to everything the answer that the NRA has for everything is no, it's a Second Amendment, and we're not going to talk about it. And I hope that day is over.
Okay, that was a compelling case, was it not? Are Republicans in leadership, are they prepared to start talking like that? It makes me think they are when Paul Ryan comes out and says, you know, here's a $50 million a year bill that could help.
Well, I mean, obviously Trump's been talking about that. The people that have not been coming to the table are the Democratic lawmakers. But when you're listening to the kids from Florida, several of them said they're pretty upset with the fact that you got a president that seems like he's ready to negotiate, and you've got others saying they don't even want to come to the table with him because, you know, he's not pushing far enough. So they're not offering any options. There's discussions for things like, you know, mental health. There's discussions, things that we can affect. The total number of guns is not going to change. In fact, total number of guns goes up every time we have one of these. We didn't have 300 million guns before Obama. We had 200 million. I mean, so, I mean, these kind of discussions don't decrease the guns. But the dialogue and things that can be done about who has them, where they are, you know, do the good guys have them? And do we have good guys that are brave enough to go into the school when they're being shot at?
I think maybe the country would be better if these two gentlemen were running the country. That was an interesting conversation. Iran, the nuclear deal may be renegotiated. NAFTA may be renegotiated. Where are we going with policy when it comes to these notions? The president, especially since Rex Tillerson stepped away, is reportedly more eager now to maybe try to work new legislation and get change with the Iranian nuclear deal, which he believes is not working, according to these published reports. NAFTA, you know, we saw some of that conversation. We saw Mexico and Canada get a break in terms of tariffs. If there's a renegotiation of NAFTA, where are we going to go with all that?
I'm going back to the campaign trail, and we're going to get some of those really smart guys in the White House, and they're going to be doing their job. And Kevin, I'm not tired of winning yet, I'll tell you that. I'm impressed with the job the president has done out on the Pacific Rim, pulling the Americans out of the Trans-Pacific Global Treaty, by which, the way, 11 countries have now gotten together and left the United States out, and China's going to fill that void. So I'm looking at that, and I'm saying that's about 11-0 over there, so I'm not seeing that as being a big winner, any winner. This president has brought not a single trade agreement home, not one that he's negotiated with anybody.
Well, is he going to set off a trade war?
313,000 new jobs last month. By the way, the first year of Obama, after Obamacare, 5 million jobs were killed. So Trump creating 300,000 new jobs is a result of his policies.
Well, Trump's not dealing with the Great Recession, and I want to get back to that trade agreement. Let's get back to this trade agreement where they've been taking advantage of us. So some of you are creating jobs, but let's have these guys. The Chinese are taking advantage of us. Canadians are taking advantage of us. The Australians are taking advantage of us. One treaty, just one. Yeah, I'd like to win one.
He really doesn't need a treaty. The way this is working, he's creating tariffs that are stopping, you know, the Chinese from importing steel at a much lower price than it costs them to produce it. I mean, those are threats, and those are clubs, and those are things that you bring to the negotiating table later. What's going on with Mexico and Canada? I think he's saying, we can work with you if you want to work with us, but there's what could happen, 25%. Here's what could happen, 10%. You get to decide by your behavior.
You feel like it'll be a net positive in the end?
In the end, there's no question it's going to be a net. And I'm not big on you know, trade restrictions, except we've known for years that so many other countries don't work with the same environmental policies we work with. They don't work with the same labor considerations that we work with, and so to have free trade when they don't have those restrictions was not a fair trade anyway.
But the Pacific Agreement provided for equal wages, environmental concerns, and worker safety, and that was one thing that treaty did bring to the table.
We'll be right.
NAFTA did not.
Back in just moments with David Covey, the Orange County GOP chairman, to talk about this matter of the guns and more. After this, stay with us.
Does this map show the Peninsula Trail?
You won't find that on a map. I'll take you there. Take this left.
If you listen real hard, you can hear the whales.
You hear that? Our Subaru Outback lets us see the world, sometimes in ways we never imagined.
Get 0% APR financing on all new 2018 Subaru Outback models, now through April 2nd.
12 News welcomes you to the 38th Annual Christus Southeast Texas Foundation Gala, Saturday, April 21st at the Beaumont Civic Center. 6 #1 hits and sold more albums than any other duo in music history. Performers Daryl Hall and John Oates. The benefit begins with cocktails at 7 p.m., a gourmet meal at 8, and Daryl Hall and John Oates performing at 9:30. Visit ChristusSoutheastTexasFoundation.org to reserve your table or call 236-7555. Brought to you by 12 News.
Welcome back. David Covey, the Orange County GOP chairman here, joining us for the first time, I think, ever, right? Maybe the second time. Maybe the first time. Great to have you with us, my friend.
Glad to be here.
Time to talk politics. Let's talk North Korea, where we may have, for the first time, a face-to-face meeting. I don't know if anybody has officially reported whether the president sits with him directly face-to-face, or if it's a summit of sorts with the delegates. I'm still not even clear on that. I've read conflicting things. But if there should be some kind of North Korea deal, is that a huge breakthrough for Donald J. Trump?
You know, I think that the president is trying something that hasn't been tried before. So, you know, Obama and other presidents have tried to do things, but they haven't been successful at it. So a lot of people are worried that maybe the president is being a little overboard by sitting down with
He's had some tough love.
But
maybe that's the thing. Do you think that's the deal? Is that why the North Koreans are willing to sit down at this point?
No, they're going to embarrass the American president when they call him to the Korean Peninsula to share with him what the little rocket man's all about. Well, there will be no deal.
They've already been embarrassed in America because we haven't been able to come up with any kind of deal that could control them, and they keep right on marching forward with getting ready for their bombs. So
you think the little rocket man, he'll summarily dismiss this notion of dismantling his weapons, and his proliferation will continue? You think it will continue just as it is?
Absolutely.
You do, yeah.
And if I'm wrong, Trump will be elected to a second term, and he should be nominated for the Nobel Prize.
Isn't it worth trying something new and see if it'll work? I mean,
sure, but you don't have to threaten the North Korean Peninsula with nuking them every 49 hours to get them to go to the table.
We've got to do something to get this threat away. It's about every week we have a threat that we're going to be, you know, have a nuke go off. So it's like, well, let's try something that'll work.
Let's try something. What do you think of this notion of the teen walkouts? The high schoolers walking out across the country to say, look, let's do something about guns and violence. Are you satisfied that the president is working in good faith to end gun violence, to curb it in American schools?
I think both parties are probably in good faith, and one of the things President Reagan had said was that it's not that Democrats are wrong necessarily, it's just they know so much that isn't true. And so I think there's some miscommunication. I think that these young people, although have a genuine concern, they're not completely informed and have the knowledge to make the right decisions on where we can go from here.
Okay, so that would, if I'm hearing you right, that implies that we do a $50 million a year bill. You know, we maybe improve cooperation between the schools and the police agencies, and at the end of the day, not a thing will change. That we'll still have almost as many shootings in American schools. There will still be just as much violence. If I'm hearing you correctly, the guns are still going to be there, and of course, your colleague Kent Batman. It doesn't sound like anything can substantively be changed in America.
I don't think that things are going to need to be changed with guns. I think we need to look at mental health. We need to look at training people. We need to look at education. I think that's what's going to cut down on the violence. These are problems with people who are severely disturbed.
That's the thing. It's a big issue. You know, you had this notion of, say, just at Parkland, the communication. We saw tons and tons of reports from this particular Nicholas Cruz shooter, and nobody did anything. At least this bill has some reporting requirements that maybe could work. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think my head's spinning like a bobblehead doll. And when President Trump sat down with those families and was talking about increasing the age to 21 and doing away with the assault weapons, has dinner with the NRA, and had a little amnesia, and nobody remembers any of it.
And this bill doesn't include any on that, or even arming teachers, does it?
So the Republicans have got the presidency, the House, the Senate. They're doing nothing, and nothing's getting done.
Michael Lindsay, David Covey, thanks so much for your time. Gentlemen, we appreciate it. Another great broadcast here, Talking Politics. We'll be back at it in 2 weeks. Thanks so much for joining us here on Southeast Texas Weekly. We'll see you next time.